Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome to the Mental House. I am your host, Khadijah. Um, Today, in line with my continuing with the Black History story, our story, Black History Month, I should say. Um, I was given an inspiration by actually a text from or email from a from M. Dombrowski. Let's just put it like that. M. Dombrowski asked me why um, don't I do some stories that would allow the white people to feel that they, you know, I'm trying to just do this with a clear heart. And because at first I thought that he was trying to be funny. And he was asking me, why can't I do a Black History story with white people included? And I'm like, what are you saying? But Mike, I want to let you know the more I further read what your intentions was, I respect that. And I will definitely, definitely make this story exactly what you were talking about because you are absolutely right. I did grow up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You seem to have known a lot about the history of the 1967 uh, riots and stuff that happened in Milwaukee. And you were right, my family um, did participate in that march. I would encourage y'all to get the movie by, I think the movie, the book, Selma of the North. And if you read that book, like I was telling you, my father and the history of a lot of stuff that went on at that time is right there in that book. So I applaud you for doing your research. Um, but yes, I did grow up in that time. In fact, I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old. And at that time, my father had left the Nation of Islam by then because Malcolm had been killed. And I think that um, again, he started going a little bit towards Orthodox Muslim, Islam. And, but with that being said, he still came from the school of, um, I guess, marching, or either he had a bigger plan. Because in my city, as I have been told, you could not make a complaint against the police officers in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, unless you were a homeowner. So the police could come and bash your head in or do anything to you that they wanted to do. And basically, you couldn't, nothing would be heard. And that to me is pretty crazy. But anyway, to continue on with M. Dombrowski's line of questioning, and that was, I respected that because I did grow up with St. Benedict's uh, Father Groppi. And I guess if you have a background like that, then that's what made me want to do the story today of John Brown. And because all of this black history is really American history. And I wish that we could just do it more. I wish the world could do it more because most people that are conscious, and I think it's more conscious than not, I would hope, they know that every day that you understand what has happened to you and you celebrate every day what has happened to you or your clan, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's really the reason why we were made into different tribes and families. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, so I grew up in that era. Yes, you are certainly right. Where Father Groppi led a bunch of black people. And a lot of people, I guess, in this day and age, I don't know how they would feel about that or what they would say negative about that. But I knew Father Groppi to be a good man. I knew him to be um, a very good, sweet man. And I love Father Groppi. I knew him personally, and a couple times, I shouldn't say I knew him personally. I should say I remember being in his presence a few times. And his wife, I believe her name was Sue. Yeah, I think it was Sue. I'm going back. But I think that was his wife. And she's still active, I think, in, humanitarian rights. But that was a beautiful time in Milwaukee. And it was a beautiful time all over America. Actually, it was pretty much right before the riots start, because when King got killed, I don't really think that nobody could take it. And I think that was what the powder keg was that was about to explode. Um, so the open house march in Milwaukee took place. Um, well, one of them. There were several. I believe one of them we were at. Dick Gregory was there, and that was like in 1967. So yes, I do remember that, and I do remember Father Groppi leading. I do remember Father Groppi um, being probably what happens today is he was the Michael Father Pfleger in Chicago. Um, and I love these brothers. I can't. I'm gonna have to admit, a lot of people say, "Oh, they just worked and they have an agenda." I'm like, you know what? You're crazy, because anytime you live in the hood where you dodging bullets, and you in an environment where you dealing with nothing but black folk, I don't care what you say. Um, Sometimes we are hard people to work with. We are hard people. You know that. You know that just from working with yourselves right now. So they were in the trenches. Father Fledger over there in Chicago, he's in the trenches. And you have to respect him, because I don't know a lot of black men that be sitting that's sitting there and would do and is doing what Father Pfleger is doing over there in Chicago, Michael Pfleger. So, um, hmm, you know, I think it's very important that we acknowledge all through time there have been white folks that were not insane, because only a narcissist, no matter if it's in that generation or if it's in this generation, would not want to give up their privilege at the risk of watching people being hung, beaten, castrated, any kind of irreparable treatment you could possibly imagine, that they would perpetuate this kind of behavior onto another human being. There were some white people that were repulsed by that behavior, and always was. And so we as black people cannot, and I don't even want to say black people, us as children of the universe. I mean, how do you see yourself? Yes, I belong to I belong to black folk. That's my clan. And I have loyalty to my clan. But with that being said, I'm also a child of the universe. I am a child of the universe. So humanity is when I go over to India and I see same person that's darker than me. He has his melanin is so rich. So it's different in skin color. It's a little deeper. He's not a part of my clan, but he's humanity. If I was seeing a woman in the Ukraine and she was forced to have a baby on the ground in the cold on the concrete, I wouldn't say, "Oh, good for her," because she's white. She should be having that happen to her. As a child of the universe, I would have compassion for her and say, "Wow, that's a bad condition to have the baby in. I wonder, I hope that person is okay." Okay, so that's what I mean by that mindset. So there are white people that I respected, and I know that this journey of of humanity, or this journey that has happened, could not have happened without people that knew that the craziness was insane. The chattel slavery was insane, and they were willing to risk their lives, and they did risk their lives to make sure um, some of us reached success in our accomplishments. They couldn't do it all. They couldn't save everybody. Maybe a few bleeding hearts are what's on the planet today. There's a lot of them. When you look at Jane Elliott, who said until racism is off the planet, she's going to continue to fight racism and in America. Okay, that's important because there are some white people that get it, and you have to, and because it's Black History Month, not not to honor their presence in our evolvement, and I agree with that. So with that being said, I know I probably did a little bit of ranting, but I do want to acknowledge what you said, Dombrowski, because that's important. And I respect Michael Pfleger, Father Pfleger, Father Groppi. When I was coming up, the priest used to be out on the streets, and I'm sure that a lot of them was molesting the boys, and I don't want to get into that right now. Oh my goodness! But they was, a lot of them were the reason a lot of these boys played at some of the Catholic schools, that went on to have successful NBA careers and stuff like that. So it's all crazy as you get older and you look at the dynamic. Because when I think about that, supporting that open house in March, I remember Dick Gregory came, and I remember we all marched. It was for open housing, but when you really think about it, most of those people that was marching, they wouldn't have been able to live in the areas that they were even marching for that law to take place for. As I got older, now I understand that. Okay, so was Father Groppi being used, or was he part of the pond to get us? He was willing to use himself as a sacrifice, so middle class Black people could get away from the rest of them Negroes and be able to move out into the places where you find a Vale Phillips now, or Earl de Parches, or the Daryl Hines. I'm sure a lot of y'all know the Daryl Hines. They live in River Hills, or the people that lived in those communities like that. We weren't able to afford to live out there. So basically, when you did the open march, what were you open housing march? What was that about? Was it just in Milwaukee or Brown Deer? Maybe. Maybe not that far. You see what I'm saying? It's just crazy. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let me stick to. I gotta stay on task. Y'all know how I get. Anyway, let me do this story right here. And Michael, thank you again for your open and honest email. Okay, so on the morning of December 2nd, 1859, while 100 years before I was born, as John Brown's body hung from the gallows in Charleston, Virginia, free and enslaved blacks across America kneeled and wept in his honor. They prayed for his soul because they knew they had lost a friend and a devoted protector. Ironically, John Brown was a descendant of Peter Brown, a passenger on the Mayflower that brought the first freedom seekers to America. Even the name John Brown sounded black enough to give black people comfort. But John Brown was not black. He was a white revolutionary who believed he had been ordained by God to free the black race from enslavement, even if it meant his own death. He made himself a controversial figure in American history, by launching a violent, no-holds-barred attack against institutionalized slavery. With his message from God and a party of 21, included his sons, daughters, and 5 blacks, Brown invaded the state of Virginia, captured the town of Harper's Ferry, seized the U.S. Armory, and freed some 50 slaves. Wow. Wow. Let me repeat that. With his message from God, sort of like Nat Turner, this fight has been a fight. With his message from God and a party of 21, including his sons and daughters and 5 blacks, Brown invaded the state of Virginia, captured the town of Harper's Ferry, seized the U.S. Armory, and freed some 50 slaves. With this series of revolutionary acts, the white militant almost single-handedly created the passionate emotional climate that led to the Civil War. More than any other white before or since, Brown confronted the issue of black liberation forthrightly and with a high personal cost. He sacrificed not just his own life, but the lives of a number of his own children. In paying his last respects to Brown, Frederick Douglass said, "Brown's struggle in the cause of freedom was superior to mine. Mine was a small light. His was a burning sun. Mine was bound by time. His stretched away to the silent shores of eternity. As a black man, I am willing to speak for the slave. John Brown, a white man, was willing to die for that slave." And there's a big difference. How do you explain this? John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry appears to have failed primarily because it was not supported by, listen to this really good, visible black leadership. In preparing for the raid, John Brown wanted a black leader such as Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass to join his crusade and call the slaves to arms. But Brown believed black slaves would not rally to an unknown white man. But both Tubman and Douglass declined to join this party. After seizing and holding Harper's Ferry for 2 days, Brown's judgment was proven correct. The slaves did not rally to his side. Outgunned, Brown waited too long for the slaves to rise up, allowing the federal troops in time to travel from Washington, D.C. and capture his raiding party. Ironically, John Brown, a white man, was a national hero to blacks, just as Hayward Shepherd, a black man, was a traitor to blacks. Hayward Shepherd, a black railroad porter, recognized Brown's raiding party as it rolled into town. Rather than assisting the liberators, he tried in vain to warn the town and was promptly killed by the raiders. After hanging Brown and his party for attempting to free slaves, the town erected a monument honoring Hayward Shepherd for his contributions to black enslavement. Wow. Wow. Can I just read that last line one more time? Ironically, John Brown, a white man, was a national hero to blacks, right? Just as Hayward Shepherd, a black man, was a traitor to blacks. Hayward Shepherd was a black railroad porter, recognized Brown's raiding party as it rolled into town. Rather than assisting the liberators, he tried in vain to warn the town and was promptly killed by the raiders. After hanging Brown and his party for attempting to free the slaves, the town erected a monument honoring Hayward Shepherd for his contributions to black enslavement. This story, again, was taken from my hero, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dirty Little Secrets About Black History, Its Heroes, and Other Troublemakers. I hope that you have enjoyed my Black History story for today. And Mr. Dombrowski, thank you again for your email. All right. If you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Y'all be blessed. And I'll see you next time in the mental house. Bye bye.